Hello, everyone. This is the Tyrant in Training podcast, and I am the host, Kevin, and I am beside my fiancée, Celine.
Hello.
Hello there.
And Hopper.
And Hopper is lying on me. That's our cat. That's not a person. And you have to explain these things. That's how rumors get around. This is the Tyrant in Training podcast, which is an improv probably podcast. It is an improv comedy podcast. That's hard to say.
It is.
It really is. When you're in full flow, you can't say that. What are we improvising, comedyizing?
You talk to guests and you ask them about what they would do if they were running their own country.
You're about to break out laughing in any second. You're just explaining. There's no joke there. There's no comedy in this podcast at all. That's what I do. I talk to a guest and find out why they shouldn't be in a leadership position.
Yes.
So today's guest is actor David August.
Ooh, it's a good month.
It's a good month. It is strong month.
Strong.
He also sounds like another actor called David.
Ooh.
David Trimmer.
Spade.
David Spade. You're married to David Spade. It's because I brought it up. So Celine had a crush on David Spade and Andy Dick.
I didn't, and you've brought up Andy Dick out of nowhere. That's never been a thing.
Oh,
No.
Who's the other guy who's with Adam Sandler the whole time?
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider.
I didn't have a crush on him
It was
either.
Andy Dick and Rob Schneider. You were crushing on.
No, it was just David Spade.
Just David Spade.
Yeah.
You just
when
had the
I
hots
was
for
younger.
David Spade.
Yeah.
Fine. Wait, in what was that show?
Just shoot me.
Okay. I've nothing for that. But David August
Yes.
sounds like David Trimmer.
Interesting.
I'll prove it to you right now. I have the receipts.
No, we don't pimp out our security team. I would not call myself friendly father because I think that would make me cringe if people were like, "Hey, friendly father." I'd be like, "Oh, I can't make them date you."
That's fine. Phil will do it.
Okay.
He does, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
Did you notice I left in the last one there
About Phil.
about Phil because there was a pause
And
David,
his long suffering.
his voice just went from let's do that, and he's really like he seems like a really positive person, right?
Yeah.
And very nice and very smart, right?
And
but
you
by that one,
tortured that out of him.
it just went to a pause and him just going, okay.
The effect Phil has on people.
It was the effect Phil had. So yeah, David is very, very funny.
Did you bring up the David Trimmer thing? Like, or is it something that he knows about himself?
I don't know. Maybe I should send him an email.
Oh, have you not?
I don't know. I'd be afraid to, because he's an actor. He might be, rivalry. Imagine if Chris Pratt kept being told he sounds like Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. That
Chris
would be-
Tennant.
I don't know. I don't think it's something people would be that sensitive about.
I'd lose my fucking mind. If I'm honest. If you said to me you look like Kevin Costner, I would
Look like?
Yeah.
That'd be a compliment.
Why?
Kevin
Man's
Costner
like
is handsome.
70. I'm 30.
Oh yeah, but you're thinking
I'm
about
36.
younger. Yeah, you'd think Kevin Costner at 36.
I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about this over dinner. Yeah. Yeah. So David August can be found online. He's usually found on a lot of them, especially Threads and Blue Sky. You'll see him, but he's also on Instagram and Twitter. So yeah, and also his website. And Mastodon. That's the other one.
Oh,
So
yes.
he's thrown himself on
Is
that.
that the elephant?
That's the elephant, and he has his own website, davidaugust.com, of course.
Very good.
So yeah, you can find this podcast at all the social media websites. If you follow my profile, that's at KevRyanPerson. You can find it on YouTube at Tyrant Podcast, and its own website is tyrantandtraining.podcast page.
Woo.
And we're done.
And we're done.
No more witty banter from us.
No.
All right, bye
That's-
everyone. Oh wait, enjoy the podcast. Go listen to it now. I'll put it on now for you. Bye.
Bye.
David August, I do have a question, right? I found out something recently, right?
Okay.
I found out today. There was some guy, and I'm going to butcher the name, but there was a guy way back in like ancient China. I don't know when exactly, called Fu Sheng. I could be wrong, but the pronunciation. But apparently he was like, I don't know, he called like the one-eyed emperor or something. He only had one eye, right?
Okay.
And supposedly this guy was crazy, right? He died a short while later. He was dragged. He was executed by they tied him to horses and dragged him until he died. But anyway, one of the bad things he was meant to be known for was because he had one eye, he was very self-conscious about it, and he would say anyone who uses the words lacking or missing, any word that you could use if describing his facial features missing one eye, like lacking or missing or whatever else I can't think of, they would be put to death. So they could not use the word lacking or missing. And I'm just wondering, is there any word you would ban in your own country that is like a common word?
Any word that I would ban in my own country? That's a good question. I'd be on a basic level, just because I don't want to limit my people's expression, I'd be tempted to say no. But I could sort of skew more Instagram inspirational quote and say, I don't know, maybe a phrase like I can. Like it'd be tempting to want to ban something that's like about someone self-defeating themselves or self-sabotaging themselves. Like it'd be
Yes.
tempting to ban negative self-talk, but I don't think you can actually stop negative self-talk through a ban. So I don't know. I think my final answer is gonna have to be that I would probably not want to ban any words.
Do you know when you say
Although
phrases? Do you know what one I don't get? I it just bugs me when people say it. Do you know when people say, like let's say if you go, I like Formula One. I don't know. I just pick that, and then I'm
okay,
meant to say, oh, I couldn't care less. Like I don't care that you like Formula One, right? Sorry,
right.
I'm being mean. But I hate people then who say, oh, I could care less, and you're like, right. So you do
So you have
care.
the capacity to care even less than you do, so you must care more than
So
the minimum. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Thanks. People who say I could care less and then just don't get that they've got it wrong.
Right.
Stuff like that for
Yeah,
me.
it would be tempting to when people sort of have a malapropism like that, where they're saying something, thinking
Yeah.
they mean something, and they're actually saying another thing. It would be tempting to sort of ban those,
Or at least give them a
just because
warning.
they
Like
can.
if you confidently use it, then you need a warning.
Yes.
But that's fair enough.
It's sort of like line when someone misspells your,
Yeah. I,
like you are versus like the more possessive like your.
mm,
Yeah, no, it'd be tempting to have some of the sort of grammatical stuff or some of the idiomatic stuff that people mess up. Although I have found English has a ton of idioms. And sometimes, especially if English isn't the person's first language,
yeah.
I want to cut them some slack. So maybe you don't get the warning if English isn't your first language, because we can't really hold you to sort of it being your mother tongue. If
I
it's not
think
your mother tongue, we can't hold the same standard.
yeah, if you're someone who can speak more than one language, so I would say if you can speak more than just English, then you should get a slide there because you're handling more than one language in your mind. That's just insane,
Right. That
right?
makes sense.
But yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
Just
you
wonder.
know what they would say the moment you give them the warning? They'd go, I could care less. And you'd just be like, oh my God, no.
Ooh. Yeah, no, that's arrested,
That's them
surely.
doubling down. At that
Uh,
point, it's obedience.
yeah, that feels like they're pushing it. Okay, what we'll do is we'll get you onto the island. I'm wondering, do you have any idea? Because when we're setting up the island, we're not taking over any part of a country that already exists. We will set you up a new island. Usually, by the way, I say it's a new island featuring with 10 hundred, Jesus, I'm all over the place, 10 million citizens. Is that all right for you? Is that too many or?
We could do 10 million. That's, I think,
Yeah.
about the population of Los Angeles County,
Yeah.
about twice the population of Norway.
And yeah, Ireland, I think, is just under 5, maybe. And it's just,
Okay, so
yeah,
it might
just
be
a round
twice the
number.
population of Ireland. Sure, 10 million works because then it's not like massive. You don't get some of the issues that like a country that has over 1 billion people
Yeah,
can
yeah,
have
yeah.
just by virtue of being over 1 billion people. But you're not dealing with like 6 people.
And by the way, when we make the island, we're just going to assume like housing and plumbing and electricity and all that, that's all sorted. When we don't have to worry about stuff like that.
Oh, that's nice. A lot of our infrastructure squared away. That's good. I like it.
Just straight away it's done. So can you see my screen?
I can. It's looking at. It looks like a world map.
It is a world map. I'm just in case it's helpful. Do you have any idea where you would put your own island in the world?
If we're gonna choose somewhere, may as well choose somewhere that doesn't get a ton of natural disasters.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
Vaguely near the United States, then I can family and friends if they don't live there.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure you'd have a private jet
I don't know.
to quickly fly over if you needed to.
Okay, let's say just for fun, slightly further off the coast than the real Channel Islands that are off the coast of Los Angeles, just because there don't tend to be typhoons and hurricanes there, even though there technically could be. And the weather tends not to be all about frost and ice and snow.
So it's just off the west of Los Angeles, just because I wouldn't be that familiar with it. But like That's warm then,
Yeah,
right?
let's make it. It's pretty warm. Yeah,
Yeah.
warm to temperate, somewhere in there. So if it were like, say, 100 miles off the coast, because I think that would be
Mm.
a little further than the actual islands that actually.
That wasn't near. Oh no, it's much further down. Than it. I was going to say that's not near where Jurassic Park used to have their islands.
No, there's where I think more close to Central America,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was off the coast of Costa Rica Island.
By the way, I usually
And the
ask.
reason I'm putting it in the United States there is for the weather mainly.
I was just going to ask as well. What is your favorite movie franchise?
Oh, if I have to choose just one movie franchise, that's a tough one. Um, I loved the Star Wars action figures as a kid, so it's tempting to say Star
Mm.
Wars. That's a lot, and it's a very controversial franchise, so I think a lot of people would push back. Um,
I haven't got angry comments about about people
uh,
selecting Star Wars.
it's tempting to say Jurassic Park just because I love the first movie so much. Not that I
Mm.
dislike the other movies, just I remember seeing that movie and loving it a
Yeah.
lot. It would also be tempting to say either James Bond or the Matrix franchises. If I had to
Mm.
choose just one, as long as I'm not like locked into this and somehow forbidden from seeing any other. Today, let's say James Bond, the James Bond movies.
Fair enough. Actually, I don't think I've watched the last one.
Oh, really?
Amazing enough. I don't think I
I
have.
actually, the last James Bond movie, it came out while the pandemic was still going. So me and my girlfriend and another couple went in and
Mm.
rented a whole movie theater
Oh,
because they were
nice.
very inexpensive movie theaters because the movie theaters were like, please come to the
Anyone
movie.
come in? Yeah. What
So
was?
the four of us went and saw that movie theater. It was kind of amazing.
Yeah, that'd be a good experience then as well to watch it. So like do you know when you watch a movie at home and you're
Yeah.
like, if I watched this in the cinema now, I think I'd have enjoyed it a lot more.
Oh,
When
absolutely.
you know, uh,
Part of it is the experience of a theater, but also like the sound systems are usually better than what you have at home, and the projections
yeah, yeah,
usually better than what.
exactly, yeah. No, no, just wondering. Speaking of which, though, you do have an island. Do you have any idea what the name of the island would be?
Oh, the name of the island. It's tempting to try to come up with a name that would strike fear in the hearts of any adversaries, but
Hmm. I'm surprised
I
you think
also
you have
feel like,
adversaries.
well, I don't know. I was just sort of assuming because maybe because global events, it seems every country has adversaries at this point.
Mm,
But it's also tempting. I imagine if we had a tourism bureau, they would want us to come up with a name that were appealing.
yeah. You wouldn't name it
Uh,
after yourself, Augustina or something, no?
oh, like Isle August or something. That is a
I'd
certain
August.
Isle August. I don't know. Or we are archipelago, so it could be like the Augustian Islands.
Yeah, the Augustian Islands. Would you go with
I
your
love
name?
that. Sure, let's do that. Let's do the Augustian Islands.
Oh, I'm just gonna write down Augustian Islands so I have it right. And I have to ask, what would your official title be? Because
My official title.
it seems like it seems like, and it might be too obvious, is to then call you like Augusta, right? Or Augustus, the whole Roman
Augustus.
thing. But you might,
Yeah, it's
with the
tempting to
name of
go
the
there.
island, maybe it's too much. It's like a hat and a hat.
Yeah, it could be. It could be a little too sort of nail in the head. I'm sort
Mm,
of between would we want to come up with something that sounds kind of bureaucratic, sort of like president or executor or overseer, although
do you reckon
overseer,
you'd go that way more than royalty or
I tend to not be a huge fan of the concept of like hereditary
like
leadership. So I
monarchy
tend
and
not to be a huge monarchy fan,
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
because the descendant isn't a complete monster.
yeah,
It's because there's so many instances in real history where even if you had a really great monarch in a generation or two, you might have had exactly the opposite.
yeah.
It's time to be president, but that sounds really boring just because there's so
The
many
thing,
countries that have presidents. But the idea of presiding over is a nice idea.
but by the way, you can you can decide what the official title is. Like if you decide the official title is like Buddy, then that's what it is. Because the 10
Right.
million citizens that arrive in your island are have bought in fully to this island. So they're not going to show up and go, he's calling himself Buddy. Nah, not into that.
So
So
I'll tell
like
you
what
something I wouldn't do. In
mm,
real life, the head of state of North Korea just had the North Koreans do a song about how he is their friendly father. I would not call myself friendly father because I think that would make me cringe if people were like, "Hey, friendly father." I'd be like, "Oh."
how about doting dad?
Oh, do you know what was that?
How about doting dad?
Or what if I just called myself the David?
The
And
David,
the
you could do
idea
that.
being that the position was named after me, that I'm like the template for what the position.
Yes. That's
Let's just call me
the David.
that mystical. I'm not gonna lie, but the David.
I mean,
I believe the name David means beloved friend. So oddly, we're not that far from what I was just talking about in terms of like the other stuff.
we're gonna find out what David means.
I think it might mean something like beloved friend.
It does mean beloved. It is derived from me. I'm just quickly reading off it, so maybe there is friend there. But beloved immediately struck out. Second king of Israel. Did you do Cersei by them? Yeah, something like that. Beloved anyway is there. So yeah, that works.
We'll call it the David just because it's my island and I get to do it, which I'm now realizing that this power is a little intoxicating.
But you might as well. There's no point going, oh, I'm the ruler of an island. I won't do much. You know what I mean? You might as well have a bit.
Right.
You might as well. Everyone has an ego to some level, so you might as well indulge it a little bit.
Right. And if I indulge in it and things like this, and I'm not actually subjugating my people, that's probably better.
It's absolutely fine. It's like if you won the lottery and then literally gave all of it to charity. You're like, that's nice. You could have bought yourself a holiday. Nobody would.
Yeah, you could buy yourself a holiday. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody.
Buy yourself something nice and then do some good charitable stuff.
Exactly. Okay. When we're setting up the country, I should ask: do you want? And I suppose there's a bit of a limit on this. Is probably the question that has the most of a limit to it. But do you want your 10 million citizens to be able to vote for a Senate with like 100 senators in it, and they'll do the everyday kind of boring admin stuff of running a government, and you have the ultimate say? Or do you want no voting and you just want your own council of 10 people you trust? I mean, the citizens are going to be happy whichever decision you choose. If you say no voting, they accept that. If you say voting for a Senate, they accept that.
I think partly to keep myself honest and be sure that I have some version of feedback from my people, I'm going to do the voting. I'm going to have a Senate. So that way, even if I have some wonderful, what I think is a wonderfully unilateral idea down the road, I have there's some influence that even if I'm totally enamored of my idea, I still have to factor in. Keep me more honest, I think.
I just have a question, and we'll just say like 1 out of 5. We don't need to like go into it because it's not the most fun chat. But let's say America, how it is right now with like politics. 1 out of 5. How happy would you be with like all the politicians as a group?
With like all the American politicians right now?
Yeah, or like the Senate in America.
And 5 is I adore them, and 1 is the opposite adore them.
Or we can do 1 and 10 if it's like easier to like scale.
Right now I'd say 3 out of 5 or 5 out of 10.
So would you then, because what I suppose what I'm getting at is, if you allow people to vote for 100 senators and then they were at, we'll say the people in the Senate, they were after voting for 100 of them that left it at 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 5. Are you kind of regretting it? Are you saying these people aren't voting for, these people are voting for morons? Something's gone wrong here.
I imagine I probably would regret it, but I'd like to think, and this is my idealism maybe, that I would see that as the trade-off of actually having granted them the vote means they might vote for people.
That you take the risk.
Yeah, I think I'd take the risk.
Okay, fair enough. It's just
even though I'm sure there'd be days where I'd be like, I wish I hadn't done that.
So you could get, senators just disagreeing with you the whole time because they're cantankerous. But fair enough. Okay, we'll go into what type of house do you want to live in?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I want to live in like a mansion with a big setback and beautiful gardens.
So when you say a big setback, do you mean like a mountain range behind you or something?
Yeah, so that it's not like right up against the curb. I don't have like it's it has its like driveway, so it's a little bit secluded feeling, so that it doesn't not quite like the White House or 10 Downing Street or the Kremlin have a lot of like pedestrian traffic outside them. I would want to not necessarily have to have that pedestrian traffic right outside my bedroom.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it. So would you live kind of outside the capital, I guess? Just a bit, within commuting distance from the office.
Sort of like the suburbs of the capital, probably.
Do you know what the biggest mansion is in the world?
Oh, the biggest in the world. Does something like Versailles count? Because then I would guess Versailles in France.
I'll be honest.
That's like a palace, though. I don't know if that counts.
I did just very quickly Google it. So I don't know have they counted that palace, but apparently it is over 2 million square feet. It is the Sultan of Brunei's palace. But would you have something as big as his?
Okay. Probably not quite that big, just because I was actually talking to this, had a conversation about this sort of earlier this week about if you have so large a house that you need like a staff of 20, what are you using the house for? Like, I
Yeah.
don't think that my personal residence would be where I'd hold state dinners, just because I just don't know if I would actually use it. I don't know if I'd enjoy like wings that I only see every 3 years.
Yeah, you would go into an office. There's the if you see there's the palace I was mentioning. Istana Nurul
Wow.
Iman Palace. It's a bit too gold. I'm not a fan of a
It's
lot.
very flashy. I kind of like the integration of the sort of, I don't know if you technically call that a water feature or just having that big sort of pond type thing. That's
Yeah,
kind of cool.
yeah, but
But it looks very shiny for the sake of being shiny.
yeah, I wouldn't be mad into it, but and I kind of worry that if there's that amount of gold on the outside, are the rooms full of gold, which I just think no, that wouldn't be for me, you know?
It can be a little overstated.
Yeah.
I feel
Um,
like if you're really wealthy, you don't need to show it off everywhere.
no, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't put much gold in it. But yeah, no, we will put a palace on. And or mention rather, are you gonna name your mention Inton special, or is it just the David's mention?
It might be tempted to just call it the David's Mansion or the Residence or something.
I was
Or I wonder, try to give it some sort of mysterious flair, call it like the Cove or something.
I was going to say you could do it off of you could call it Mention Angelo's David. That
Mention
doesn't work
Angelo's
at
David.
all for Michelangelo, but I went with it anyway. I think the Cove works better.
I think I'll call it the Cove just because that sounds
Yeah,
cool. Just
I'll
that we
edit that
might.
out. They'll build that. That's fine. That's good. Okay, we'll go into some other questions. We will say, is there anything that is kind of like some mundane sort of thing, everyday item that is everyday item or activity that is banned in your country of Augustian Island?
Everyday item, an everyday activity that's banned in our country.
Yeah, any sort of pet peeve that you decide, no, we're not having that.
I don't know if this is an everyday item because I know in a lot of the United States it is sort of isn't anymore.
Mm.
But I don't think I'd allow smoking in public places.
Oh, at all? Like smoking cigarettes, you mean?
Yeah, smoking cigarettes or cigars or pipes or anything, just because that makes people who aren't smoking have to breathe it, and that doesn't seem fair.
So if someone is out in the park and they're off, I don't know, off under a tree, they're like 50 feet away from everyone, that person's going to jail.
Yeah, and partly because of where I chose the location, that it's off the coast of Southern California, which can be sort of prone to wildfires.
Oh, sure, Jesus, if he's under a tree, he's asking for it.
Yeah, you don't want to light the tree on fire and then it burning down the entire island.
How long should they put him in jail for?
I don't know if it would necessarily be a jailing offense. It might be something that would be, I'd hate for it to be a fine, maybe like 60 hours of community service.
60 hours, so that's like
That's a week and a half. That's like a week and a half of community service.
all right, for a cigarette. What if they're smoking on the job?
As long as it's not something like if a truck driver is, drunk or inebriated or stoned, that might be unsafe. That would be a separate thing. But I think if you're smoking inside your car with the windows up, that's private property. At that point, you're allowed to do that.
But
It's more about doing it in public that would be the problem.
so if someone is smoking cigarettes inside in their car with the windows up, so all the smoke is just remaining trapped inside,
As long as they're the only one who has to deal with the smoke because they've chosen to,
you're
they
absolutely
can't
fine.
make anyone else have to deal with the smoke who didn't choose to.
Okay, but what happens when they pull up at a car park and they open the door and all the smoke comes out?
That's an excellent question. I don't have an answer to.
Okay, absolutely. It's a law that hasn't been worked out.
Right.
It's going to
I
happen
have to
once
have
or
my
twice.
policy people hammer out a meaningful law that is as equitable as we are hoping it will be.
Car parks are a dangerous place for smokers. They get caught routinely. Cops
They
at the end of the
might be.
month will hang out at car parks to catch people.
Can we have our car manufacturers create air purification technology that means that it would absorb or filter out the smoke quickly enough that
It's a
it
good
wouldn't come
idea.
out
We
of the
can
car?
force them to, surely.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
maybe
can do
that your
that.
car emissions, including from someone smoking inside, need to fall within certain ranges.
Yeah, we get right on that. What unusual list is your country of Augustian island top of in the world?
Oh, it'd be tempting to say life satisfaction. That the people who live in on my island are the most satisfied in their life of anyone in the world.
Would you say that's like happiest country in the world, though, no? Or would it be different?
Yeah, it might be happiest. Yeah, life satisfaction, happiest is probably the same kind of a thing. I think there are lists like that, and I don't know who's at the top of it.
Do you have
Like in
any
real
can
life.
you have any sort of guess? Because I have it here, who is the happiest countries in the world in 2024? I'm kind of curious now if I go in, will I see Ireland
I
anywhere?
want to guess it's somewhere in Scandinavia.
Am I right in
I
saying?
want
I
to
think.
guess it's Scandinavia. It could.
God, I'm failing. I'm pretty sure this is Scandinavia, but I could be wrong. But yeah, you're close to it, at least. Oh, Norway is
Is it
number
like
7.
Finland?
You're exactly right. Yeah, Finland.
Norway's 7. A lot of the Scandinavian countries also have a high incidence of suicide. So there's like an ironic counterpoint there.
Do you know what the weirdest thing is? I went over, as I said earlier too, that I went over to Norway a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And before I went, I was talking to someone and I said, yeah, no, I'm looking forward now. I'm going on a holiday over to Oslo. And they went, oh, that's the suicide capital of the world. And I was like, oh, thanks for telling me. I'm fine. I'm happy. There's no, yeah, no. Oh,
I
okay, right.
imagine I think someone said that they thought it had to do with that during half the year there's not as much sun.
Maybe. Because I do think that does affect, like, I'm speaking from
Because
Ireland,
I
like,
think
where
it's
it's miserable.
probably
Yeah.
easier. It's probably easier for certain sort of dark thoughts to get more traction if you're not encountering any sunlight.
I think if you wake up in the morning and you see the sun shining in and it's bright and a lovely day, do you know what I mean? That is always nicer than getting up and you
Yeah,
just
I mean, you
see.
can definitely be depressed in any situation. That is something
Yeah,
that is
yeah, of
important.
course. Yeah.
But it's sort of like a little bit of a nudge in the direction
Mm.
of not being quite as dark, literally and figuratively, I guess.
The top country, like Scandinavia, just own it because you have number 1 is Finland, number 2 is Denmark, number 3 is Iceland, number 4 is Sweden. Then you have Israel, Netherlands, then Norway, and then Luxembourg, Switzerland. It's all that region, isn't it? Like it goes down a bit, but even Luxembourg isn't that far away from them. But yeah,
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
Ian.
So yeah, do you want to
Oh,
say
good
no?
times.
You're putting your island.
Yeah, just because I like the idea of everyone is genuinely having a good time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I do have a difficult question to ask you. Um.
Okay.
Your approval rating is at a mighty 98%, right? People
Fantastic.
are delighted. However, there is going to be a scandal that's going to come out involving you. Um, I'll let you know now. It will drop your rating down to 59. So it's quite bad. You get to decide what the scandal is. So what do people find out about you that is a scandal?
Wow.
Obviously, I prefer if you make this up. I do not keep
Right,
secrets well, and it is a light entertainment podcast.
right. Understood.
But yeah,
Um, oh, it's tempting to make it something really esoteric, like played fast and loose with the mineral rights off the coast. But I don't know if that's really what I want to do. That's not nearly as much fun as like that people find out I have like a massive baseball card collection or something, which in real life I do not.
mm.
Um, but that would be a pretty innocuous one. That's like giving myself a pass. If people were like, "Oh, he owns 10 million baseball cards," that's like hardly really a scandal.
Hey, whatever you decide, don't worry, it will be a scandal.
Let me see. Let me see. How about the scandal that I had discussions with another country about the oil drilling rights off the coast, and I did not loop in the Senate. So people are concerned about, am I trying to do something unilaterally? Like that it looks like bad governance, even though it was just the initial conversation.
Now, I would say that your citizens were, well, I suppose when they first arrived on the island, maybe they thought it, but they know that you make all the decisions at the end of the day. Like you are the man
That's
in
true. So maybe
charge.
that's not actually a scandal.
So that I don't think they'd be that surprised that, oh, he was going to do something. Well, he's the boss.
Could it be that I was intending to annex a neighbor?
Really? Who are you going to? You mean your neighbor beside your mansion or beside your
No, I was saying beside the
country?
country.
Oh, wait,
Although,
America?
given where I placed it, that would be America, and annexing the United States is probably just geographically not an option. Trying to think of a good scandal.
Honestly, it sounds like you were trying to annex your neighbor. You were trying to like add his house onto the mansion.
Oh, that could work. Yeah, I was considering, buying out my neighbor, and I don't know why that's a scandal though.
Oh,
See,
well, what I think your advisors are going to ask is they're going to say, listen, people aren't happy that you were trying to buy out old farmer Joe out of his house. We think you should go on to, you're familiar with Frost Nixon, the
yes,
yeah. We think you should go on to the nightly news program and talk to the greatest news reporter in the country, Anderson, and explain yourself in this Neighbourgate scandal. You happy to do that?
I am, as long as we get to prepare in advance.
Oh, how are you
Like
going to prepare? How do you mean?
me and my communications team are going to like rehearse where one of them is going to pretend to be the interviewer, and we're going to sort of try to figure out the best way and most articulate way to answer the questions that I'm most likely to get. Just because I don't want to go on completely unprepared, because then I'm going to end up sort of in the court of public opinion, probably lambasted.
Okay, we can do the
I
prepare.
don't
We can
know.
we can prepare for this if you like.
Yeah.
Oh, we can do that. We'll bring in who's the guy you want. Well, we bring in Michael. He's one of your advisors, surely, right? He can do a job.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I'm Michael there. Okay. To David, we're gonna prepare for this. He's obviously gonna say thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
Uh,
having me. I'm glad to have the opportunity.
Good, very good. Okay. I'm Anderson. Welcome back to the show. We have the David on. We have to discuss Neighbourgate. We were talking to old farmer Joe. He said he's very upset. The house has been in his family his entire life. He didn't want to sell it. Can you explain why you wanted to buy it?
Well, we were thinking of making an addition to the cove
I
that
to
was
be
going to
honest, sorry,
change.
sorry, David. I just want to cut in there. I wouldn't start with well.
Oh, good point.
Because
Excellent.
his son fell down the well. He hasn't recovered him yet.
Oh,
That
yeah, that's
might
going to be a sensitive topic. That's
yeah
going to
might
be
be.
triggering. Good point. Good tip, Michael. Thank you.
Thanks very much. But yeah, no, sorry, continue. So you just go straight into it. No, well,
In the process of planning to make additions to the cove, we realized that there might be impacts on the neighboring land, and we thought it might be best to integrate the land in before we made the changes.
okay, good point. I just want to say when you bring up that, what impact would it have had on the, that you might cut in that way. So really like, oh, what impact did you expect to have on old farmer Joe's land?
Oh, because he's a farmer, we thought it would change the way the water would drain. And so the amount of irrigation his plants might need would change. And we thought that the best solution would be for that to no longer be a problem because we'd bought him out.
Perfect. And when you were buying them out now, the property was valued at 2.5 million. What were you do you have the figures on what you were offering him?
We were going to make an initial offer of 3 million, hoping that the premium would compensate for any inconvenience.
Okay, but now again, his son was down the well for the last 2 weeks and it's still there. Were you just going to leave the son there and pave over it, or there was accusations made about that?
There were accusations made about that, and I think that that's really just a misunderstanding. We wouldn't want to leave any citizen in danger like that. So I think the plan would be to I have a team from the Southern California grotto that we were going to fly in that was going to mine down and rescue him from the well.
So you were going to fly them in. By the way, I'm just curious. What did you just make that up, or is there?
No,
What's
there
the
actually is
southern?
a real organization called the Southern California Grotto, which they're cave explorers and cave
Ah,
rescue people. They're like enthusiasts about speleological things, which speleological is like the study of caves.
all right,
Um,
okay.
so yeah, we would bring some people in from the United States mainland who are experts in these sorts of things to try to make sure that that the farmer's son is rescued, because I would think 2 hours trapped down a well would be unpleasant. 2 weeks
Two
sounds
two weeks
interminable.
is quite, yeah, it's an emotional time for old farmer Joe. Now he said he still doesn't want to sell the land. So what are you doing because of that?
I would imagine, although I don't want to necessarily commit to any numbers here in
Mm,
public because it's sort of an
yes,
ongoing negotiation,
good,
we
good.
would increase the offer.
Okay,
That
and
we'd increase the offer,
if
hoping we can come to a number that we both like.
he said he's very adamant and he doesn't want to do any deal at least until his son is rescued. So are you waiting? Are you trying to play chicken with him? Maybe not bring in the rescuers until he agrees to sell, or
Oh, that strikes me as cruel. I think independent of the
good.
sale of a parcel of property, we probably need to rescue this son as quickly as possible, no matter what.
And just final question, we will just throw this at you a bit of a curveball. If he just refuses outright to sell for no matter how much, are you going to rescue his son?
Yeah, we're gonna have to rescue his son because no citizen of our country should be left at the bottom of a hole.
Brilliant. That's a good slogan. That'll be in a headline. Right. I think that's
I
good.
like.
I think, yeah, no, very good, very good. Good job. Good
Excellent.
job.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Good.
Perfect. Okay. I think you can go on the show, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect. Okay, we'll start. I'm presuming you're going to sit down the chair in front of Anderson. Anderson's going to say, "Welcome back to the show, and thank you for joining us. We have the David on, a very special guest. Obviously, David. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Brilliant. We have to speak about Neighbourgate, of course. There's been a lot of accusations thrown around and a lot of worry for your citizens. Don't you agree?
I do, and I regret the worry that this situation has caused for everyone.
And how are you personally taking it, by the way?
I'm surprised. It's been harder to get a good night's sleep knowing that this has not come to any sort of good resolution yet.
Mm. But I mean, you are still looking for resolution to buying the property, right?
Yes, I do think that there is a path, even if we don't know exactly what it looks like yet, that we can get to a good destination for everyone involved.
So when we looked into this, we found that you had made an initial offer. Why did you make an initial offer over the proposed land value? Was it to try and settle it up quickly before anyone found out?
No, it wasn't about the speed of it at all. Actually, it's more if a property isn't already on sale on the market, I figure it's going to be inconvenient to the owners to entertain a new offer. So we wanted to sweeten the deal, so to speak, so that we're making a generous offer right out of the gate, partly to express our understanding that it might be inconvenient to sell a piece of property that you weren't originally thinking of selling.
And there are reports that you are looking to bring in mercenaries from another country. Is that true to help persuade old Farmer Joe?
No, no, we wouldn't have to bring in mercenaries. Our armed forces are fully capable of providing for the security needs of our country. But
So
in this case, we were going to bring some extra in cave rescue to help the farmer's son get out of that well.
And what about the old Farmer Joe himself?
Old Farmer Joe himself, I'm hoping he will welcome these cave rescue experts to.
I'm sorry, you said well that he specifically asked not to mention that. I'm sorry. We'll have to cut that.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Sorry. Michael is in the corner being like, "Ooh, it's a tough one."
Totally.
Yeah.
I hope that I realize that we're not editing this interview. I hope people can forgive me for using that word.
Oh, I mean, it is live, but yes, of course, yes, I'm sure they will. Now, his son has been down there for 2 months now.
2 months? I had understood it was 2 weeks. I'm so sorry. 2 months sounds even worse, more unpleasant.
No, we contacted you like a month and 2 weeks ago, and we said, "Can you show up?" And you said, "Well, it'll take me a while to prepare." Well, your team said to take me a bit to prepare, so we left it a while.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, yes. So you are going to, you're promising to rescue the son, I believe. That's the statement you've
We're
made.
going to do everything that's humanly possible to rescue his son so that he can live a full and complete life. Everything that it can be done. Unfortunately, in any sort of dangerous situation, no one can guarantee an outcome, but we're going to do everything we can to try to make that outcome as good as it can be.
Do you plan on rescuing old Farmer Joe as well?
If old Farmer Joe also needs rescue, we will absolutely rescue him as well.
Why do you think he also jumped down the well?
I don't know. We'd have to ask him, but my imagination is he was probably going down the well to try to save his son.
Is that something you would do?
I probably would, even though I would hope I would find professionals so that I didn't become another person who needed rescue, making their job that much more difficult. But if I saw my child in danger's path, I might act without calm, and I might put myself in harm's way as well.
I'm sorry, but are you criticizing old Farmer Joe for acting irrationally and frantic and jumping down the well when he should have hired professionals?
I would probably do the exact same thing he did, and I feel for him because not only is his son in danger, now he is, and I think any parent would probably gladly jump down a well if they believed it could save their child.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, we do have to go for a break, but that's it. Yeah, we thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Anderson.
Thank you. Okay, very well done. Michael was a bit concerned there when you said with the whole fact that it took us like an extra 6 weeks to get onto the program, but it was fine. How did you feel about that?
I feel like I probably could have handled that interview a little better. Seemed a little more composed, but all in all, I'm hoping that I didn't make the situation worse.
I think the preparation did well for it, though.
I think it did. I think I'm glad that we had a dry run because
that was good.
It'll help me not make as many mistakes on air.
Yeah, I think if you got that live on air question of like the son is in a well for the last 2 months, I think that might have gone wrong. Anderson is going to turn to you while they're on break and say thanks very much for the interview. I just have to mention we are We are making a documentary about you. Obviously, this is the only news station in town, and we are all in on this government. So it's basically a propaganda piece. Do you want us to mention any fantastical fact about you? We can make it up, no problem. Anything we
Oh
can
wow,
tell the citizens how great you are, you know?
that's tempting. I don't know. It's tempting to go with a real fact, but it's also tempting to sort of spin something into something. Uh, that's a tough one. Trying to think of something that would be impressive, but not seem so impressive as to be implausible.
Ooh, well, these people will buy anything. That approval rating has gone up to 89%.
The temptation to exaggerate is real. The temptation to inflate things. Um,
Can you exaggerate in a humble way?
that I had the opportunity to pursue going to space as an astronaut and decided not to so that I could serve my country in this leadership position as the David.
Oh, nice. Where were you going? Were you just going into space, or were you landing anywhere, or what were you?
It was to do a tour on the International Space Station.
Like a music tour?
No, just
Oh,
like spending 6 months up there doing scientific research, and material science.
oh, fair. Oh, cool. So you didn't do that. You no plans to do that at all.
I did not do that
Yeah.
because it would have meant not just the 6 months being in space where I wouldn't have been able to serve as the David, but it also would have meant the time where I would have been training to go into space. I would not have been able to
Uh,
focus on being the David as well.
it's fine. We'll call the documentary "The Spaceman?" question mark or in brackets Spaceman, not brackets, quotation
That
marks.
could be,
Um.
or making space for his country.
Oh, for fuck's sake, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
fantastic. Bravo. The audience, the stage, or the crew on the set are applauding that. Okay, I'll give you a good question out of that. Back in your office, there's a knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock.
Hello?
Oh, hello. Door opens. Hi, it's Paul, your finance guy. Hello to David.
It's good to see you, Paul. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Good to see you. Come here. I just have good news for you. I'm after looking at the finances of the country. We're doing very well, very very well. By the way, what would be your chief export?
It's so tempting to say bauxite just because I feel like there's only 4 people in the audience who will know what that is. I don't
Absolutely no
know.
idea.
It's the raw material from which aluminum is made.
Oh,
It's tempting to say bauxite, but what I'd really rather the chief export be either information technology or entertainment, like software or
yeah.
like movies, TV shows, that kind of thing.
Also, those cars might be a bit handy as well. The ones with the technology to kind of remove the whole
Oh
smoke.
yeah, the clean air cars.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I like that.
Either way, yes, no, they are doing fantastically well. I just checked the bottom line here on the finances of the country. We're in the green. We're in the green by about 40 billion. So listen, the country is doing well. Old Farmer Joe and his son Michelangelo, they both rescued. So your approval ratings in the 90s.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
That's great
perfect.
news. I'm
And you know
glad
what?
they
They
were
look
rescued.
great, by the way. They look healthy, great, no issues. They were in and out of hospital within hours. Yeah,
Fantastic. It sounds like the best outcome we could possibly have hoped for.
absolutely fantastic. And your man is so happy he's agreed to sell the house at 2.5 million. So it's all great. You're doing well. Now, I'm just
Fantastic.
wondering, your citizens are so happy nowadays. They just said, look, we would like to build a monument for you, some major monument that we can build for you, even name it after you if you like, but they don't really know what to build. Like they would just really, it's as much for them as it is you. Do you know what I mean? Um, but any
Yeah.
ideas? What should they build for you? Big statue or anything
Oh,
at
it's
all?
tough. I feel like a statue, but so sort of interactive elements like built-in slides and staircases for kids to play on.
Oh, so to be more of a family entertainment thing. Well, I suppose, yeah, kids. You're looking at
Yeah,
entertaining.
where you could experience it not just visually, but also sort of tactily and kinesthetically. It'd be kind of fun. I'm thinking of I just sort of encountered online in real life not long ago. There's a couple sort of, I don't know exactly what they call them, but they're
Mm,
kind of, staircases that get enclosed and sort of go through space. There's one in Europe and one in Asia. I think it might be like
mm,
one in Germany, one in maybe Japan. But
yes.
don't hold me to those countries because I'm not remembering. But they're sort of interactive sculptures where people can walk up the stairs and sort of go through the not quite tunnels, but they're enclosed so you won't like fall off.
Yeah.
Um, some sort of thing. So it's not just a, sort of lifeless statue that you look at from afar, but something that you could actually sort of clamber up on and around and through.
So the the stairways and
like
stuff,
climb up,
slides,
sitting
they're
in
on
the
the
palm of
inside or
my
are they on the outside?
Some of them are on the inside, some on the outside, but
Okay.
that you could like climb up and have a picnic on the palm of my hand, perhaps, or
Oh,
something
very
like that.
nice. So wait, you're holding your hand out like Magneto with the palm up.
Maybe yes. I don't
Very
know.
good.
I haven't thought it through. I would leave that to I'd have to work with an artist to make sure
Design.
that that's
Yeah.
a good design. Yeah.
And I mean this is going to be big, right? It's going to be like the Eiffel Tower or something. Like this is a proper statue.
Yeah, I would want it to be thought of as sort of I would both want it to be thought of and built to be a long-lasting sort of wonder of the world style thing.
Colossus of Rhodes sort of deal. Like
something like that, although using modern engineering technology, so hopefully it would last for many more centuries.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah, like it won't fall down. Yeah, no, we'll get to work on that. That's absolutely fine. Paul's gonna go out the door and tell people we're starting to build that. It's gonna cost a lot of money, but don't worry, like we have the money.
I
But
like
yeah,
that.
no, perfect. Do you want more good news? I think this is good news for you. One of your advisors has gotten an email in, and it's from I want to say Pinewood Studios. They're the guys who made James Bond, right?
Yeah.
They have a request. They are making a new James Bond. And they would like to film some of it in Augustian Island, if that's all right with you.
Uh-huh.
Now,
That would be.
they would
I think
like you to have a cameo.
Oh wow.
Would you be interested, or?
I would be interested, pending we'd probably have to read the script in advance to be sure that it's something that it would make sense for the David to appear in.
Well, that's the thing. We were going to do it where James Bond is at a big glitzy gala. He's staking out a place. The usual kind of thing. He goes in his suit. He gets his shaken not stirred. Was it martini?
Yes.
Yeah. He's going to be doing all that. It's a little bit like you're going to be at the bar as well. You know what I mean? You're the famous guy. You're only be in it for a minute.
Okay.
And now they're very impressed with especially how you handled that interview, and they actually thought that was all off the cuff. So they would like to do it kind of improv. You can say what you want. They want to give you a free rein. They don't want to limit you.
Okay.
But would that be all right with you?
Yes, I think it would.
Perfect. So you are the David. You're not playing a character. You're yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go for you being you're the David in it, and people will be like, "Oh, he's playing himself." Cool.
So, is the scene meant to be set actually in the Augustinian Islands?
It is. He does have to fly over because good James Bond movie. He goes jet setting, flying around the world.
Excellent. So I'm coming with like fun ideas about where this could go.
So once like we're gonna say up on on the day of filming, we're gonna have the big this is going to be a proper bar. It's going to be 5-star hotel in the bar, lots of people around. We're going to position you near the bar, maybe having a drink. What would be your favorite drink, by the way?
Oh, that's a good question. It used to be when I was younger. I'm not a big drinker, but when I would occasionally get a drink, like at a party or something, I would sometimes go for like vodka cranberry, but I don't know if that's necessarily what I would go for now.
And of course, we can fill it with
I'd
water
be tempted to say it's probably best for me to be just sort of as the public figure of the country to be drinking something non-alcoholic. So probably like either a ginger ale or flavored seltzer, just so that the idea that I'm not at the helm of the country completely blitzed is probably better. But I don't know. There's this one Riesling that I had once that I liked a lot. So it might be just a simple glass of Riesling wine.
Okay, so we're gonna get you your drink. We're gonna have you by the bar. We're gonna say action now. It will say action right around time where the bartender hands James Bond back his drink. Okay. Now he taps his microphone. He's after saying, "Look, you probably won't know what he's saying. We won't write this for you in the script." But he's saying to his voice, his eye in the sky, if you will, "I'm on it. I'll find the guy." And he's gonna turn around to you and go, "You look familiar."
So do you, Mr. Bond.
I was hoping to actually get into the country a bit more stealthily, but that didn't work out. Thanks. I am wondering, do you know who is running this gala tonight?
I believe it is Mr. Leopold.
Mr. Leopold, he's in your government, right?
He was in our government previously. He has since retired. He was Minister of the Interior.
And did you forcefully retire him, or why is he running this gala now? I thought he was run out of the country. No?
The official line was that he was told he needed to retire or he would be facing prison time.
What did he do? The more
Uh,
evidence, the better.
he we had evidence that he was colluding with other countries to sell off without permission or due process the mineral rights of our country.
I knew it.
So he did not face formal criminal penalties, but he was told that any further transgressions he would be facing the full weight of our prosecutors. And I'm hoping during your time here, you can help us determine whether or not he has in fact continued his nefarious ways.
I sure as hell am going to. That's classic James Bond line. He is going to show up here, right? I'm waiting, but he usually shows
And
up
if there's
late.
anything me or my government can do,
I'm sure you'll be
I have
happy
5
to
minutes.
help.
I will be happy to help in any way I can.
Perfect, because there is something you can do for me.
Excellent. What would that be?
I notice that neither of us have a beautiful woman on our arm. That seems problematic for me for some reason.
Let me speak into my cuff for a moment and ask if agents from our internal security service could join us.
Who? What's her name?
This is Sarah, and
Right.
this is Betty,
Right.
and they're here to assist us.
Wait, what do you mean by assist us? Are you pimping out your head of security or whatever they were?
No, not pimping them out. They're going to assist in terms of providing the ability to be lookouts, and they also can put their hands on any weaponry that you may need.
No, when I said there's not a beautiful woman on our shoulder, I meant I was looking for a date.
I'm sorry. I thought you were looking for people to help.
No, but you got these very attractive but very capable security team in. I assumed you were just pimping them out. You don't do that, no?
No, we don't pimp out our security team.
I mean,
you're welcome to ask them to dinner.
They will say yes. You will be. You said you'd help me.
That would be something you'd have to work out with them directly.
But you said you'd help me in any
Well,
way.
they'll help you with your work. I can't make them date you.
No, but you can tell them, just like you did with the bad guy, Mr. Leopold. You'll say, or else, they'll date me like he resigned, right?
I suppose I could.
Yeah.
But you're a diffident British operative. I think you probably have enough charm of your own to perhaps at least get yourself the first date with someone.
I don't know. I don't think Betty won't even look at me. This is a new James Bond, by the way. They're going a different way, but he's very self-doubtful.
Way. He's a bit less confident with the ladies.
Only when talking about sport, but yeah, no.
Betty is quite an accomplished equestrian. Perhaps you could talk to her about her horseback riding experience.
I always thought that was something to do with water. No, I've never been on a horseback. What about Sarah? Is she good?
Sarah got her master's degree in astrophysics. I don't know if that's something that you also have an interest in.
I played on AstroTurf. I played soccer on AstroTurf.
A similar word.
Oh, we lead with that. Put in a good word for me.
Yeah, that works. I will. I'll see what I can do.
Nice. Okay, I'm getting a lead. Okay, we'll cut. He has to go. He has to get out of there.
Excellent.
Okay,
the
brilliant.
Socially awkward.
Do you know what? It's the change that James Bond needs around now. Okay.
Actually, in the books, it's funny you say that. In the books, he sometimes does express more self-doubt than he does in the movies.
Does he? But I suppose when they started the movies, they wanted to easy to digest.
Part of it is the book gives you his inner monologue sometimes, or his inner thoughts, whereas in the movies, you don't necessarily need that. There's a couple moments where a couple of the men who played James Bond have had moments of hesitation, which is partly sort of cribbed from the book, but the book goes a little further. Like there's a moment in the books, which I have not read all of them, but in one of them I read he had lost his wife because his wife had been killed, and he was pretty much depressed. He wasn't finding joy in his work or joy in anything else.
Yes.
And while he didn't necessarily identify it as depression, he was sort of depressed, and he was hoping that Q would give him work to sort of help distract him. But Q was concerned about his state of mind, and so was giving him more administrative tasks. It's sort of an interesting, more introspective take on Bond than you usually see depicted.
Was that something in the Daniel Craig movies where it was he was kind of presented as someone who not reckless in his work, but just reckless in I'm going doing the job because of that?
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah,
Craig ones, they did make him when he lost the woman he was with, he was more than some of the other cinematic depictions, like deeply impacted his ability or his interest in doing the work,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
his compunction. And it seemed to play out, although I'd be hard pressed to come up with specifics off the top of my head, that he was a little more reckless with his own safety because maybe
That's what
he
I'm thinking
wasn't
of.
as concerned.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
he wasn't reckless with
it's
the work
interesting because
itself,
like,
but yeah.
but if he got killed, he wasn't as concerned about that.
Yeah, it's just part of the job sort of
Whereas
thing where
like,
you're like, yeah.
yeah, where there's moments when most of the other men who played James Bond had moments where they thought they might get killed and they sort of fight tooth and nail not to die.
Yeah.
Whereas Daniel Craig, especially towards like the last, without spoiling anything for anyone who hasn't seen them, his last couple films, there were moments where his self-preservation didn't seem to be his number one priority.
Yeah. Okay, no, but and my version of James Bond goes, I don't know how deep they go. I do have two questions for you. And by the way, these have gone very well so far. I feel like they're going pretty well.
I was so concerned that I was going to construct a country that was going to just become a roiling failure.
No, the citizens are happy. The scandal was breezed past, and old Farmer Joe and Michelangelo are living a happy life in Barbados now. You don't mind that they moved country, right? You're not offended. Like they just decided to drop
I'm
it.
not. I mean, if they wanted to, then they're welcome to.
Barbados, fine country. And there's a knock on your door. Knock,
Okay.
knock, knock.
Hello. Come in.
Hello. David, it's Paul again. How are you?
Hi, Paul.
Hey, I just have news for you about your big statue.
Uh-huh.
It's good news. To be honest, I'm just going to be a bit quick about this because I actually have my plane ticket book. Remember, I booked a holiday for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to Portugal with my wife. So I'll just let you know, statue is built, costs a lot of money, but it's working order, looks beautiful. It's out by the coast, has a beautiful backdrop. People are delighted with it. Yeah, so you're happy with that?
Paul.
Thanks.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I was going to ask for a raise, but I can do that when I come back, right?
We can definitely have a conversation about that. Yes,
perfect.
I definitely think some sort of bonus for accomplishing this task well.
Sweet.
And or raise makes sense.
There is the other thing. I did check the finances again, just to check how much is left after it was 40 billion we had. Turns out there was a minus sign in front of the 40 billion. So I think we might have been in debt actually, but I don't know.
That's
anyway,
a pretty big mistake.
But I'm gonna go because the plane is leaving. But yeah. By the way, the International Monetary Fund just rang saying we're a bit concerned about your finances. Do you have any plan to make money? I said you can handle it. But I'll just go. So bye.
Wait, maybe Paul, it'd be good for you to take a slightly later flight so that we can get a little bit more clarity on.
There's not many flights out to Portugal. I don't want to take a flight that I'm not jet hopping. I'm too old for that. So I might go.
We can have the government private plane take you. I just want to make sure that we get a handle on this $80 billion error, because to think we had a $40 billion surplus, which actually turns out to be a $40 billion.
Yeah, it was a funny one, all right.
Is a pretty big an economy like ours. So I think we want to identify how
the minus was in there.
And we want to identify what we think. Yeah, how did the minus get overlooked?
But you know what? When you think there's a smudge on the computer, you don't pay attention to it, do you?
I got to tell you, Paul, that seems like a sloppy bit of work on your part. If a smudge computer could be an $80 billion mistake.
I mean, it was a big smudge.
That's a pretty big mistake. It may have been a gargantuan smudge. Right. The fact is, what is your official title? You're the Minister of Finance?
That's the one. Yeah, proudly.
And for you to not have a handle on our finances to the extent that you could, by a smudge disguising it, misstate our finances so badly is
it's an error. I admit it's an error, but that's why
it is a material error in the center of your job responsibilities.
But it is what it is, right?
Yes, but as that phrase seems to be designed to some sort of level of defeatism, I'm going to ask you this, Paul.
Yes.
What do you think that David should do in light of this error made by the finance minister? What do you think would be the next appropriate action that David would take?
For you to, well, I mean, if I was the David, I'd be DePaul. So I'm not really sure. That's not my responsibility. I don't like stepping on other people's toes, to be honest. That's not, that's not the job of the finance minister.
Let me rephrase then.
Yes.
before I figure out and the rest of my government figures out
Yes.
how to handle this heir and whether or not we believe you had a conscious, willful hand in this heir, I'm
Hmm.
curious what you think should be our steps taken to remediate the situation.
Okay, first of all, I think, first thing, education, right? We need to look at education. Now, I don't know what remediate means. So I think you should teach me that and anyone else who doesn't know.
That's fair. That's a good point. I will
Thanks.
mention that to our Department of Education.
Perfect.
In the meantime,
Yes.
I think we're going to have to give you a suspension, which
With
will
pay.
mean that you will no longer have, with a reduced pay, you will only
And
be getting 75% of your normal pay.
but I'll get my
And
promotion, or I'll get my raise though for the statue being built.
that will depend upon the outcome of the audit into
Right.
the country's finance, because while building the statue is a great accomplishment and I'm glad
Thanks.
that you've done it,
Thank you.
it may not erase the error that may be bordering on malfeasance.
I mean, you
And
haven't even
if you
seen the
actually,
statue yet.
it's true, I have not seen the statue yet,
Yeah.
but I'm going to have to see the finances, and I'm going to have to look back at least 5 years to figure out how the finances ended up $80 billion off of what we believed them to be.
I think it was the tax breaks we gave the car company.
That could be. We'll
Yeah.
have to take a look at whether or not those are something that are sustainable going forward.
Okay.
But
How long can I
when
still
we-
go on my flight this evening?
Not quite yet. No, not this evening.
What? When?
Well, because we have to first establish whether or not this error was simple neglect, or whether or not there was some sort of malicious intent. And
Okay,
if there
but
was malicious intent, then there may be criminal charges that will proceed from there.
well, clearly I didn't do it criminally. But to be honest,
We're going to have
David,
to get our Department of Justice to look into your personal finances and make sure that there's not $80 billion that have been misplaced from somewhere else.
if I had $80 billion, I would have my own private jet. But to be honest, to David, the reason why I'm so keen to get away, this evening with the private jet that you promised, it's my wife's birthday,
Oh,
tomorrow.
happy birthday, Deborah.
Thanks. Deborah's delighted. But she would love to see Portugal. So I'd hate her to miss it on her birthday.
I would hate for her to too as well. And I don't
Brilliant.
want to have to defer her birthday celebration. But if we have to defer her birthday celebration to get a better handle on the finances of the Augustine Islands, then that's a small price to pay. Even if it is clearing up a miscommunication, it's urgent enough. We cannot have the state treasury end up empty when we thought it was overflowing and not take that seriously.
I mean, it's going to break her fragile heart.
Well, then she can come talk to me and I will try to soothe her fragile heart. But at this time, I'm instructing our security services.
I'll call her in. Deborah, honey, the David wants to speak to you. Deborah, hi, the David.
Tomorrow, Deborah. I'm
Hi.
so glad that you.
I heard about the private jet. I'm so happy that you're.
There is a small caveat. We may need to defer your celebration in person in Portugal because for the finances of the country, we need to begin, and we'll do as quickly as possible, a full audit of our finances to figure out why we are not where we thought we were.
But it's 5 o'clock now. Will you have it done? Like it's a oh God, it's a 10-hour flight, so it's 5 o'clock now. I mean, I don't want to get there when it's 10 o'clock at night.
Well,
we may have to day there.
We may have to get you there a later day. Unfortunately, affairs of state mean that your husband is not allowed to leave the Augustine Islands at this time.
But my dream is to visit Portugal on my birthday.
I understand that.
With my
and
husband.
It is hard. When anyone of our loved ones is in public service, sometimes we have to take on some of the sacrifices they take on for the sake of the country. And at this time, sure that we can write the state of the state treasury. Your husband's not going to be able to leave to the Augustine Islands at this time.
But wouldn't you sacrifice then for me and my husband, citizens of your country?
I cannot ask the citizens of our country to sacrifice an $80 billion mistake in our finances just so that you can celebrate your birthday, unfortunately.
But this is my last birthday, of course. Yeah, sorry, I'm going dark on this. This is my last birthday.
I realize that, and that is unfortunate. And
it's very unfortunate. I will not see 4 weeks from now.
Well, we may be able to, depending upon what we find in our initial investigation, later this week get you with a Augustinian Islands security contingent and escort to Portugal. But
me and Paul, that's my dream. Me and Paul on my birthday in Portugal.
at this time, unfortunately, Paul is not at liberty to leave the Augustine Islands.
So you're breaking a soon to be deceased woman's heart before it explodes.
But one thing I can say is we can get you a second opinion from some of the Surgeon General's closest associates, the best scientists and doctors in the country, to try to make sure that your care is the best it can possibly be in the interim.
I mean, David, I have a spear through my heart. I don't think, second opinion isn't going to pull it out. So, what?
They've done amazing breakthroughs at our research center in microsurgery.
Right.
Maybe they can mend your heart literally and figuratively.
So you wouldn't just let me go over to Portugal with my husband for a day?
No, not at this time. It's possible later this week, depending upon what the preliminary investigation reveals, that might be an option, but at this time it is not.
Oh, honey, don't cry. No, I'm sorry. I just can't. Deborah, don't. Deborah, I just need to call my brother. Anderson, you won't believe it. And Deborah runs out the door.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're keeping Paul, essentially.
For the time being, yes, because we may need to have his insights into what is what as we assemble documents for our forensic auditors.
So I'll just say yes. You can rule here with an iron fist on that. And any ideas though how you're going to make some money?
That's an excellent question. We've been talking about maybe putting together a meaningful futures market for the Pacific region, and it's possible that some of the licensing fees that the various people who participate in that market and would have seats on that exchange might be able to make up some of the shortfall. Right. And there's debating about whether or not it's going to be that everyone who has a seat on that exchange pays an annual fee, or do they just pay a percentage of their trades?
Yes.
The industry itself seemed to indicate that they would prefer the flat fee because that makes their expenses more predictable.
Right.
But it may be generating more revenue for us to put a percentage fee on each trade, but that is something that we can probably spin up in the next month or two, I would hope.
So Paul is managing finance and trade, so he's going to be right on that. He's going to be spearheading that whole initiative.
I'm actually going to have the Deputy Minister of Finance take control of that because Paul's professional responsibilities are for the time being suspended.
That's fine. The deputy has been trained by Paul for the last 2 years. If there's anyone that Phil trust more, it's Paul to lean on when he's in trouble. That's fine. Phil will do it.
Okay.
You sound defeated.
Well, just because $80 billion, we probably wouldn't have built the statue for whatever that cost if we had known that we were $40 billion in the red and not $40 billion in the black.
I will say, and this is Kevin talking, you say $80 billion, but to be fair to Paul, it's a minus sign that wasn't even bolded. If anything, it was italicized, which makes it a little bit harder to see. So, it's not like he saw 80 million or 80 billion, that wasn't there. He didn't see a small little minus sign.
But it does suggest if month after month, year after year, he was looking at the finances and then suddenly saw that we had a surplus of $40 billion without anything having suggested that we were on the way to that surplus, that suggests that he wasn't necessarily fully paying attention to what was happening.
Either way, I think you at least you're a man of action, right? You didn't just kind of panic, and in fairness, you didn't just focus on punishing Paul.
Right. I'm trying to slow things down to clear a picture of what happened.
Yeah. Oh no, I can go with that. Well, I will ask, right? And this is the last question because we're going to assume you steered the country out of it, and it was a bit tough. And Deborah, unfortunately, rest her soul. Yeah. Sorry about that.
I think we should name the dog park she liked going to with their dog after her in her honor.
So we can say the Deborah Dog Park.
The Deborah Smith, whatever their last name was.
Yeah.
The Deborah
it was actually Smith Jones, but you only worked them for 2 years. Yeah.
Deborah Jones Memorial Dog Park.
Yeah. No, that'll work. Also,
and maybe a little scale statue of her and her dog.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, no, that'd be really nice. Actually, Paul, of course, can't stay on the island now. He just, the man's heartbroken, right? He had to leave.
I can understand that.
He actually runs an unsuccessful nail salon in Montana. But if you want a
That's
bit of
pretty
good
fun.
news, just to put your mind at ease, there is a knock on your door. Knock, knock.
Hello,
Hello there, Phil.
Phil. How are you?
I'm very good. I'll just get straight on to business. Great news for you.
Okay.
Finances, and don't worry, I know what a minus sign is. Double checked it. It's all okay.
Excellent. That is great news.
It is actually, get ready for this, and once again, there's no minus sign. 140 billion.
Wow. 140 billion. We might be able to invest in that offshore wind farm that we were
Do
talking about.
you want to know how I did it?
How did you do it?
I had another look. Turns out that minus sign was a plus sign. Bam.
Oh,
I'm surprised nobody
those
else
nice.
caught it, to be honest. But there you go. Never any debt. Except for
Never
Deborah. Deborah's the only debt.
Oh, that's a shame.
But anyway, yeah. There you go. I'm gonna take my holiday. I'm going to Montana, getting my nails done.
Okay, I hear that they're not always. I hear that they're wonderfully underpriced, world-class manicures you get there. And that's
Sounds
partly.
cheap, right? I'll go somewhere else. Good job. All right. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later, Phil. Good to see you.
Good to see you too,
Bye,
David. Be well. Okay. Yeah, well done. It would be nice if Deborah got to Portugal, but anyway, fuck her.
Yes, maybe we can have our capital city and Lisbon become sister cities or something in her honor.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice. Okay, last question I have for you is: at some point you're going to get sick of surely running this island, or you have to think about who your heir is, right?
Thanks.
Who would you name as your heir of the country? By the way, it has to be someone who is alive now. Can't be a hypothetical grandson.
Like a real person in my
It
real
has to
life.
be a real person now. Now, in fairness, I don't have to personally know them,
Right.
but just someone who is
Something
alive.
off the top of my head to say either we hold elections and be full on democratic, or because that's probably not nearly as much fun, even though it's probably the most just way to do it. Um, in real life, probably my sister, because she actually has a degree in international relations and has worked professionally in government service.
Ah,
So in life, she probably has a pretty solid resume for such a thing.
yes. Would you have
So
any sibling rivalry if she did a better job?
ooh, I imagine there'd be days that I'd be tired or I'd be irritable and I'd be like, I can't believe she's doing a better job than I am. But
Yes.
overall, I'd like to think that my better self would be thrilled if someone took something I started and did even better with it. I
Yeah.
think I'd be glad. I'd feel good that I'd anointed that person as my successor.
I should say, by
I'd
the
like
way,
to think.
she would take the job, right? Like if you asked nicely, like you think you'd be able to convince her.
I think I'm asked nicely. I think the only reason in real life she wouldn't necessarily be thrilled is because she lives on the East Coast and she'd probably
She has to
be
move.
further from her friends. So it'd
You
be
get the private jet.
but with the private jet, no, I think that'd be cool. I think if I asked my sister to be uh the head of state of the Augustian Islands
Oh,
off the coast of
would she be happy with being
California,
called a David?
say yes, because she would understand that it's sort of like uh Julius Caesar
Yeah.
made the name sort of made Caesar the title that went to eventually the Germans called their leader of state at one point the Kaiser and the
Mm,
Russians called their head of state the Tsar.
yeah.
All of it was echoing the Caesar the idea that that person had created the template. So I'm gonna say she'd probably be okay with it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, to be honest, your approval rating was so high. I don't see how them going, hey, we're keeping the line of succession in the family. That's great. Going to be another relative of David. I'm sure she's smart, right? So they're going to be happy with it.
Yeah,
No reason, as
yeah.
you said, she's qualified in ways
The other,
that.
yeah, the other way, I would probably go for whoever had been my vice, David,
Mm,
or someone who would, seen up close and personal the day-to-day operations and the sort of
Paul,
strategic planning of the country, and let that person take it on.
Paul.
I thought Paul was the minister of finance.
Oh no, sorry. I thought you were mentioning just someone who had seen day-to-day running. I was like, oh, Paul. Yeah, but no. You went
No,
for someone else.
because I would say if I had like a vice David, sort of like a vice president,
Right.
or a
Yes.
deputy David.
Yeah.
Deputy David though sounds like a cartoon character, sheriff type character.
They could
So
dress like
probably
one.
not call it. They could. I like calling it the Vice David. That
Yeah,
sounds kind of fun.
that
It
sounds
also
fun.
sounds like maybe they have vices.
Yeah, that's one condition for them. Okay, yes. All right, fair enough. Are you,
Oh,
by the way,
although the problem with calling it Vice David, you might call them the VD, kind of like the VP, and VD has a very different meaning.
oh, yes. Ooh,
So maybe Vice David isn't the right move. The
yeah,
David in
To David in Waiting. Sounds like a
That
wedding.
sounds something else. No, I'm trying to think. How do you the under David, sort of like undersecretary?
Oh, that would work. Yeah. I can't think of any necessarily negative spin to that.
That works.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. We'll come up with that. I'll have my communications department come up with what the title
Yes.
should be.
Yeah,
The thing.
I'm sure on your way out, when you're winding down, you can figure that out. Okay,
Okay.
David, I'm gonna have to say, well, I can just call you David because usually I have to stop calling you by your official title, but that was only the David, so
Right.
this is much easier. David, thank you. I do have to ask, where would people find you online?
They can find me usually at David August on
Hmm.
places like Mastodon and Threads and Instagram and davidaugust.com, which is probably going to be long term, no matter what platforms there are. I'll still sort of have my own personal sandbox will be davidaugust.com, which right now is a fairly Spartan site on it, just because I needed to put something up there and
Yeah.
without boring you with all the details, it's in transition. But I have links to my other profiles there. But David August on most platforms.
Coolio. Thank you very much, David, for joining and being a tyrant, who didn't
Thank you,
actually kill
Kevin.
anyone except Deborah, but you saved two people in a well, so
Which
balances
is
out
great. We will miss Deborah. I'll
greatly.
miss. She was a great conversationalist at dinner.
She was only 84. The only other thing I have to ask you is, because I don't have an outro, if you were leaving your role as the David, what would I suppose your final advice be to your citizens?
Final advice to my citizens would be, in all cases, whatever challenges we face, either individually or together, remember that we can make things better, even if they get worse in the midterm. We can get there together and make the world a better place for all of us.
Except Deborah.
Well, yes, it's too late for her.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we did not find the cure
No.
for congestive four heart syndrome, where you have four hearts and they get in a fight with each other. But we hope
And
to,
so
to
one
cure
of them
that.
throws a spear at the other. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Terrible condition.
when your hearts actually used edged weapons against each other, it's very hard to recover. And we hope that we will eventually destroy that scourge on humanity.
What a lovely message of hope.